Is he coming in that door?
She's just pulling in.
Yeah. Good evening. Today is Thursday, June 19th. And we're calling to order the Environmental Advisory Council. We're losing power right now, so we'll hopefully be back up on generator. There you go. Roll call, Janet Cardenas,
Here,
Dave Belush.
Here.
Sheila O'Sullivan Feeney. Present, and Cindy Mahalo is walking in the door momentarily. We're gonna do a moment of silence and then. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry for the delay this evening. There was a storm condition and we lost power, but we are back on track. Item number 4.1, considering approving the agenda. A motion was made by Dave Belush, seconded by Janet Cardenas to accept the agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Motion stands. Let the record show that Cindy Mahalo is in her seat and we know we get you at work a lot. Public comments for agenda items only. Being none, we'll move to item number 6, considering approving the minutes from our May 15th EAC meeting. A motion was made by
Me.
Dave Belush, seconded by Cindy Mahalo. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion stands. Thank you. Item 7.1, land development application review for the Village of Four Seasons at 0 Gradyville Road. All right, so let me give you a brief history of this property and then we're gonna have some things to inquire and discuss about. Now, as you know, this property was before us back in November. The EAC did a lengthy EAC comment letter dated November 22nd, 2024 on this particular property. Since the individual application was originally sent in October 14th, and they have changed this greatly, we're going to be taking some guidance from Steve Holman. So I guess our question is, Steve, this particular property, we see that it's roughly 21.79 acres, of which they are planning to, let me get you the exact number. They are planning to remove trees, but they will be, the proposed project is removing approximately 15.27 acres of existing woodlands. And this is from the plans notes themselves. So we know that this particular property will have 12 homes proposed. 9 homes will be accessed through Newtown Square and the cul-de-sacs, and 3 lots will be accessed from Bellflower Lane in Marlboro Township. And the conditional use, can you explain to us the difference? Because we want to understand the conditional uses that were mentioned in November and October plans are different from the ones we have. Are they a combination of all of those conditional uses, or are they 2 separate issues?
It's 2 separate issues. So what you have before you is basically it's a plan that they've made adjustments to the plan based on the comments that were made from the first review. So, but you're not, so because they've made the changes, you're under the new conditional uses that they're going under, if that makes sense. So.
But I have a question, because when I was reviewing our comment letter from last fall, the summary said that they were asking for approval of conditional use on 3 issues: minimum lot size, disturbance in a slope conservation district, and intrusion into wetlands. So 2 of those issues are not mentioned in this current application that we're
Yeah,
looking
I think they
at. So were
felt-
those were those removed? Were those approved?
I think we would argue nothing was approved. So nothing went through.
It stopped at November 22nd. was the last day.
Yeah, so they've resubmitted. The plan is different than the original plan, right? I mean, as I look at it, the original plan called for them to have a drive that went from Marple into Newtown and then out onto Gradyville Road. That has changed at the direction, at the conversations that they had with staff, at the conversations, based on people's reviews. And so there is less impact to wetlands. They've moved the road over where they've moved it over so they could, there's still a fire lane that we kept in because we needed to do that for safety. But the actual impact of going in is not the same. They've moved around the roadway where it comes in off of Gradyville to eliminate some of the issues that were related there. So I'm not sure the same wetland impacts are there. I think there's still some. I don't know that it's, I'm not, when I'm saying this, I'm not saying that they've eliminated them all, but I think they've reduced them. So I think that still needs to be addressed. I think that even though they're not specifically stating that, the lot sizes have changed. The lot size, they're arguing a difference than we're arguing. So we believe there still needs to be a variance. But the variance is different in that the lot size is still averaging 60 square feet or 60,000 square feet per lot. That actually is what they're averaging now versus I think the first time it was closer down around, I don't remember, but I think it was closer to the 50s or something like that. So to my understanding, that piece has changed. And then can you go ahead and pull the plans up, please?
Plans for this.
And then secondly, the third issue, I forget, was not a steep slope impact.
The slope
Uh,
conservation.
Slope conservation. My understanding is they now have limited slope issues to, I think, just driveways. I think they've gotten all the houses out of the slopes, which was one of the things they were working.
Okay, I guess we have a question for the municipal planning code. So this applicant originally put in their application October 14th. And it's only noted because in September 9th of 2024, the Board of Supervisors gave public notice they would be changing the repairing buffer from 50 to 100. On October 14th, the supervisors changed that and gave that direction and followed through with that amendment. So I guess our question is, the October 14th questioning was on that particular application, which was a conditional use based on the particular matters.
I think you can make note of it.
Yes.
I think that it will be it'll be a legal determination. I don't think we're going to get into that. I think the thing that you can make note of is that you believe that the change was made. Should this not be, that's what I would be your recommendation to.
Recommendation, yes, it would be that we uphold the 100-foot repairing buffer because that
Yeah.
greatly impacts everything. Cindy, we also talked about, you want to go into a little bit of details on this and then we can back it up?
On what?
On our plan, on our November 22nd email, our comment letter, we went into all the particular issues, how this is greatly impacting both our comprehensive plan
Okay.
and these
Yeah.
particular areas.
Yeah, when we go to draft,
When we go to draft our comment letter on the plan, I think you will find that we will reiterate a number of our comments. Because while the plan is different, it still has major impacts on a very sensitive piece of land, and we still have grave concerns. For example, we're going to cite where it does not comply with the comprehensive plan. We're gonna talk about the fact that we believe the applicant needs to demonstrate that every effort has been made to comply with Newtown Township Code 148-2F to eliminate or minimize adverse effects or damage to the environment, consistent with the National Environment Policy Act of 1969 and Article 1, Section 27 of the Pennsylvania Constitution. As we review this plan, it's for 21 acres. The applicant has proposed to basically clear cut 15 acres out of 21 acres. According to the tree survey they did, which we do not think is sufficiently complete, they proposed to remove 36 heritage trees which are 36 inches in diameter at breast height, and includes maples and oaks that are anywhere from 150 to 200 years old. To remove that many heritage trees and to clear 15 out of 21 acres seems like it is not in compliance with that part of the code. We're going to be looking at other parts of the comprehensive plan that we feel are not being complied with. We're going to talk about the stormwater mitigation. The stormwater mitigation plan has changed drastically. From 3 separate basins, there are now 10, I believe, underground infiltration systems, 1 for each home. There is an extensive network of underground pipes, which will snake through the development, shunting the water progressively downhill. The creation of these underground detention basins, the digging of all the trenches for all these pipes, which will then flow out into riprap and then kind of go right into the wetlands and down into our drinking water reservoir, to me is a very severe impact on our drinking water. And, you know, while the applicant has complied with the state law, the standards set at the state level, that the plan is designed to mitigate to a 2-year rainfall, we feel that is insufficient. We've always felt that a 2-year storm is insufficient, given the changing climate and the erratic rainfall patterns like we just saw. Precipitation patterns are changing, and we're seeing more severe storms, less frequent, with, you know, flash flooding. And I think we're going to propose and request that the applicant design the stormwater management for maybe a 5-year storm.
But what's going to be the basis? I mean, I understand environmentally where you're coming from. I don't know where the basis comes from that in regards to our comp plan or our ordinance that have actually been a change that says that that's what our guidance is. I mean, they're building it, as my understanding, to what our current guidance is. So, I mean, you can make a recommendation, I guess, but where's the teeth
I think the.
that
teeth
the
really-
township has to take a stand? And I don't know where that is. That's my concern.
Our point is, this is a unique property in reference to its location to the water supply, and
Okay.
in our comprehensive plan on page 45, it specifically refers to the protection of our water supply. 280,000 people drink their water from Springton Reservoir, and we have to make sure that we do everything in our powers to make sure that that quality of water is totally protected, that there's no additional disturbance to silt and remediation of everything. So I think that's where we're concerned, because not only is it just, you know, the land development, it's because I think of the proximity to the Springton Reservoir.
Okay.
which-
I think I hear you. I just don't know. From a legal standpoint, I don't know what teeth we have to
Well,
make the change, to make them do anything. And that's my concern. I don't have a problem saying we think you should. I just want to be careful in understanding that.
No, Steve,
Yeah.
I totally understand that. And
Okay,
that's been one of my frustrations, is that the only teeth we have is the code.
yeah,
We have the comprehensive plan, which is a wish list.
Mhm.
And I believe I've been told that we can cite the comprehensive plan all we want, but it will not stand up in a court of law. Is that
I
right?
think that's fair.
Yeah.
Because we haven't changed the
So-
ordinance to equal the.
So I feel that it is our role as the Environmental Commission to remind people of what the comprehensive plan says.
Yeah,
We realize that the engineer and the zoning officer and the arborist will probably limit their comments to comply with the code.
okay,
But we don't want people to forget that plan. That
Okay.
plan
I
reflects
don't-
the wishes of the residents, the aspiration of the township.
sure.
It's there as a visionary document, and it is not to be forgotten.
Yeah.
And if
And
we're the
aren't we
ones
in
that
the
have to
process
mention-
of starting a new comprehensive plan?
We are.
Yes.
And that will surely increase the storm years, you know, to like maybe a five-year storm. as being what we should plan for. I can't imagine we would just stay at the same.
Yeah.
With what we
Well, what
know.
we can do is, we can only see what's in front of us and deal with the codes that we have. We respect that. But what we're saying is that this particular plan goes against not only the water issue, but it also will further fragment our forest. And as we know, the core habitat in Newtown Square that has been identified, both with Aronimink and with the area that's listed as south of Bradyville Road and Springton Reservoir, this will greatly further not only impact the forest, but then again, the wildlife study that we're asking for. So we have,
And for example, to back Sheila up on that, the plan does not conform with the comprehensive plan natural resources goal to protect the township's natural features, page 2.1. And specifically, it fails to achieve the objectives, and I'm quoting here, to protect mature trees and woodlands, especially large stands of woodlands with interior forest, to maintain and improve water supply and water quality for potable and aquatic uses, and maintain the stability of steep and very steep slopes. And that language is all directly from the comprehensive plan. And we would argue that it does not preserve and maintain the natural features in large trees by clear cutting 15 acres of heavily wooded land and removing 36 heritage trees. And we plan to note those things.
also in page 3, if you could go to page 5, Tim, please. We noticed something in the notes that was just a bit concerning. We noticed that on page 3, section 3, page 5, the notes in the top right-hand corner, are they coming up as,
Yeah, you just flashed by it.
Yeah.
There,
there you go.
there,
So pull
on
that
the
up.
right.
So a couple things we wanted to mention is the topography that they are using for this particular property is dated from 1986. Now, they said they did get an update from LiDAR, and that was, I believe, in 2001. So that is a concern. In addition, the wetlands delineation report, which we noted in our November comment letter, was this property was last properly delineated in June of 2016. The applicant said that they reflagged and confirmed the property as of April 2025. And as you know, we had no difference in terms of what the reflagging meant. Did we lose or increase or decrease the wetlands? And all the reflagging and confirming typically involves just a wetland scientist revisiting the plan through a computer, very limited on-site investigation. He reassesses a plan and basically stamps it. But the key part that why we are asking for the delineation is because then he would have to accept the rules and regulations that are in effect from 2025. So if you just have it reflagged and confirmed, it's not really a full, complete delineation with jurisdiction, which we have asked for.
And just to point out that when we raised this issue last fall and we spoke with the township engineer, Eric, he agreed that to accept any wetlands delineation that is more than 5 years old he would not find that acceptable.
And that is best
we
practice.
had flagged that concern and he concurred. So we're pointing out that
Yeah.
their delineation was 9 years old, and that while they did some study of the wetlands, they really did not provide full delineation by a licensed wetlands engineer.
And especially because that area has been impacted by emerald ash borer disease. But also on that notes, number 9 is they mentioned that the infiltration testing would be needed to be done prior to construction. And we're just wondering, normally infiltration, and that is the flow of which water is handled in that area, should be done prior to making up plans. So we don't know why they're saying that the infiltration testing will be done prior to construction. We want to get clarification on that.
That's pretty normal.
Okay, well, we just wanted to get clarification on that, and we would love to see that. In addition, we did say, this is another area of concern. Number 10, they're saying that there's sufficient vegetation currently existing within the existing 50-foot riparian buffer. But in their notice of invasive species, they said that the area is inundated with invasive species, and they mentioned some of those. So we said, we'd like to know in the riparian buffer, if it is well vegetated, is there any invasive species and will they be removed? But they weren't in the plans, the landscaping. In addition, we didn't see any of the square footage for the property in one note, and I think it was a typo, Steve. They actually said that the properties were between 47,000 to 92,000 square feet. We know that these homes are not an acre long, so we think that must be a typo. And I.
Why,
It
what
was.
do you mean?
Is
There-
that the lot size or the house?
Lot
size?
Yeah,
size.
yeah, they were saying the house size, it was an incredible amount. We'll have to pull, I get the exact page that we found it up, because we were concerned. about that.
I would think it's the lot size, not the house.
Well, the lot size would be an acre if that was the property. It was, they gave us no indication. You know how usually you get your impervious surface, what the square footage of the house is, what your base level is, what your building envelope is, that wasn't listed.
I got
We
it.
saw. In addition, Cindy, we mentioned,
Yeah, I'll talk about, when you're done, I'll talk about the landscape requirements in the woodland management
Yes.
plan.
okay, you can go into that.
Okay, we were very encouraged to see, an HOA woodland management plan. I have to say, this is the first time we've seen this type of document submitted as part of a plan. We find that very encouraging because there are an increasing number of HOAs in our township and they have control over a lot of land. We think it's also very positive that the applicant is thinking about proactively, intentionally managing certain parts of the land during the construction phase and for a short period after. Steve, this is quite detailed, and as I think about the logistics of providing a comment letter on the site plan, as well as comments on this, we would like to provide comments on both. However, I know we've been strongly encouraged to keep our comment letters as brief as possible. And I wondered, could we submit, because this is an unusual situation, comment letter on each of the two documents?
I guess so. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not saying no, I'm, I mean, look, I mean, I'm not telling you what the board's gonna do with it. I think that,
And a related question, maybe where you ponder that, sorry to interrupt you, is will the township arborist review the site plans and the woodland management plan? And will this go before Shade Tree?
currently, yes, I believe it's going before Shade Tree. Woodland management plan, I would have to look at it a little bit more detailed. I'm assuming the arborist is gonna review both, because that's his role.
Okay,
So I'm not worried about that part of it. Whether the Shade Tree would be reviewing the woodlands management plan, I'm not sure.
okay, okay.
I wanted to add that I read this, the management plan very carefully, and I was encouraged by, for example, the things that they said that would be prohibited. Just the one, last one about the use of surface applied herbicides or pesticides or fertilizers are prohibited with woodland management, a forestation area, unless specific exemptions are here for invasive vines and weed control. But to detail or delineate that is prohibited in that area, I think.
It's very important because it's so close to a source of our drinking water.
Sure.
But that's, there's just a lot of details in here and I can go through them very quickly. That I think there's a lot of good things in here. I think there's things that can be strengthened. I think there's things that can be adjusted. And the big picture, I would love to see something like this required for every HOA development that comes through. And one of the comments I think the HOA could make is that this seems to cover only the 2 years while the property's being developed, because it says on page 6, the Village of Four Seasons Newtown LLC, who's the developer, their woodland areas are shown on the preliminary subdivision plans. Wait a minute. Okay, the LLC HOA will fund and maintain the management of the woodland areas until ownership of the property is relinquished to the HOA. So there's 2 HOAs, I guess. One is the developer's HOA, and then as the properties are sold, it will go to.
Well,
Is
it's
that called
typically a
division?
single HOA. It's just that it changes. So like any HOA,
Yeah.
like any HOA, the HOA starts at that point, the minute that the developer starts the project. And so as they, as in that process, and so they're responsible for doing certain things up until they turn it over to the owners who now own the properties within that. And there's usually a percentage point when a number of, certain
Yes,
number
yes.
of homeowners are
Right.
now there and have their,
Right.
instead of the developer having the control, the
Yes,
homeowners have control, but it's still, it's still the same HOA.
okay,
Yeah.
but I'd appreciate the explanation, but that doesn't address my concern. My concern is that it talks about this management plan having a limited duration, that it will
But
cease
it
to
is,
function.
but what I thought I heard you say was that the developer
Well,
would manage the plan until they turned it over to the HOA.
well, I'm
Maybe I
tell you what it
misunderstood.
says. I don't know who these HOAs are, and it doesn't explain.
At what
Well,
point they
it says the
continue
Village
or
of
not.
Four Seasons Newtown LLC HOA. Which is the, I guess, the owner
Yeah,
will fund and maintain the management of the woodland areas until ownership of the property is relinquished to the HOA.
yeah.
So what I would like to encourage is, I don't know how many years that will be, but I think the management of those, this is, if this is to be a truly complete, long-lived, sustainable management plan, it does not speak completely enough to what happens after that relinquishment. It doesn't talk about funding, having an operations and maintenance budget, an operations and maintenance plan. And it talks about, like, the invasives only have to be, controlled for a limited time period. It talks about 5 years, like.
Well, I think the
that-
biggest point is tell them that the percentage, what we're greatly concerned about. They have this
Well,
wonderful-
yeah, I'll get to that
Okay.
other thing too. So I think we need to, it needs to be clearer and stronger about what's going to happen on an ongoing basis.
Success.
Do
Um,
those continue?
Yes, does it continue? And also, it's disappointing that this applies to such a minute fragment, a great fragment of the land. The whole development is 66.56 acres. The Newtown Square side is 21 acres. The amount of, if you give me those numbers, Sheila, of open space, you had calculated that.
Yes, it's 2.74.
2.74
Three
acres of
open
open
lots.
space. But this plan only applies to a third of an acre.
0.31,
Yeah,
not even a
0.31, less than a third of an acre. So while it's a wonderful plan and there's there's a lot of good things about it, it's very disappointing that it applies for such a tiny bit.
Mhm.
And when you look at the overall negative impact of the whole development, yes, the road doesn't go through, the official public road doesn't go through to Marple, but you still have all the disruption that's going to happen with the emergency access road. And there's still 12 homes and there's massively long driveways that are going to go through there. So there's still lots and lots of disruption and removal of the forest. So if this is supposed to be
fix.
a compensation or a fix, it's really pretty
Exactly.
underwhelming. It's a
Right.
nice idea, but it's
No,
underwhelming.
make note of that.
We also did say that we would be looking for the MPDS permit. And one thing that we wanted to make sure was covered was there was no mention of the wildlife survey that was done, if and date that was done to this particular plan. We're only noting that because those the location and the proximity to the Gradyville situation with the bog turtle that had the bridge out for so long. And because this property is so close to it, we know that would be an area of concern. So we would like to know if indeed what wildlife study was done and how this will impact the wildlife in this area. Hello, Joe. Let the
Hey.
record show that Joe Pinto braved the conditions of a tornado to get here.
This place still has power.
And we're
Thank
grateful,
goodness.
David. So we're grateful that you're here.
Me too.
And then you're next.
Treasures out there.
Yes, we're gonna quickly, Dave, do you want to add anything else to what we've discussed? And you're an engineer.
This
in
happens to me
background.
all the time. You guys
We go first.
make so many great points then. No,
I'll let you
look,
go
I mean,
first next
no,
time.
it's fine. Look, I think my big concern again is 0.31 acres of the replanting to cutting 15 acres, right? So if 15-1 loss to replacement ratio is pretty huge. Steep slope disturbance, we've talked about impacts on the drinking water and the watersheds, and then the riparian buffer issue, which we've touched on as well. So those were the
And I
those-
think
those are the
also
primary red
they gave
flags.
us the sampling of the 36 trees, but not an actual.
And
Yeah.
heritage trees, correct.
The
That
trees was
was
a
the other
great
issue,
concern.
yes.
Yes, that's a concern
Yeah.
is that according to the code, they're supposed to, the code is very explicit about that every tree over 24 dBH is supposed to be noted. The placement, the species, the location, there's supposed to be a map, a list, and the applicant hasn't done that.
Mhm.
The applicant has used a sampling approach, which we find is deficient. Also, Steve, I had a question for you about this. On the landscape requirements page, they have a table that talks about street trees
That's page 30, Tim.
and the number that are required according to code and the number that are provided. And they break it down by large and medium deciduous trees and evergreen. And they have the categories, but they don't give you the totals. So I totaled it. And the total required trees is 250, and they've only provided 87. So that's kind of disappointing. What provision would the township make to compensate for not having those trees? Isn't there a formula, a replacement formula?
There is a replacement formula, and if they haven't met the replacement formula, then usually there's an expectation that the developer would then make it a contribution to the township, either to the open space fund or to a tree fund.
Okay, now you stated that that was an expectation, which sounds like it's a wish or an aspiration as opposed to,
Well, I mean,
Something in the
I'm
code?
being careful. I don't know what the board will require.
Right.
So, I mean, like,
so it's to the discretion of the
the
board. if
board, the
they-
board will make a decision. I mean, they may. Look, if the board feels that they've given something else someplace else, they may say, maybe we don't need that. I don't know what the, like, I don't want to say, yes, they're gonna make them do that. Because they may come back and say, you know.
Yeah, no,
like-
I'm not asking you to
Yeah.
predict what the board's gonna do. I'm just asking you, what is the process for making that determination?
Typically,
And
the
it's not
board-
in the code, it's a
the-
board decision.
Well, no, the code says that you either do this or you do this, right? But there are occasions where if there's room for some negotiation from time to time, depending, particularly in a conditional use piece, where they may, like if the applicant does something that may not be required by the code to meet something, the board can give some relief someplace else. And
Well,
that's why I'm being a little bit careful. It's
Okay,
not
yeah.
typically done, but I don't want
Okay.
to, I don't want to say this is how the board's definitely going to handle it and find out that the board did different. You say, well, Steve said you were going to do that.
Right.
You know, I'm just
No.
being careful, but
we can't predict their decision, but it's helpful to know what the process
my,
is.
my guess is that I've been doing this for 10 years with our board. Obviously, it changes every 2 years because you have an election. But I don't know that I can count even on one hand the number of times they haven't made somebody do the tree. Most of the time, they make them do trees on the property if they can.
Right, right.
I mean, they really do push that. And so
Well, I think it would be very hard to do trees on this property because you have so many long driveways. And almost every property, I think, is going to have to be clear cut in order to put in the stormwater detention facilities and pipes. It's like they're just wrecking this landscape to put things in and
Creating berms
and
yeah.
I think we will say in our letter that I think the township is giving a lot by even letting this land be developed. It's like such a sensitive piece of land with, when you look at how far the riparian buffer goes into properties and the wetlands. And the fact that this is so close to the reservoir.
So, for example, property number 8 and property number 12, if you look at them and you can see the riparian buffer, if you look where the location of the house is, as soon as the person maybe comes out their kitchen door, they're walking into the riparian buffer. Then that's just with the 50-foot. In addition, the elevation points start off, I believe, at like 376 at the top, and they go down to 241. So property number 12 is sitting at below 241 is his elevation points. And that's where they're saying that the water is going to be flowing to. So we're greatly concerned, not only for the land, the water quality, the environment, the wildlife. The residents who purchase these homes need to be aware of it. And how are we going to be able to encourage them to uphold the 50-foot riparian buffer, which we still believe should be 100?
They'll probably
When
put
it's in their
turf grass
backyard.
and mow right up to
Yeah,
the
so
stream.
it's like if you see, pull up property number 8, Tim, if you can. You'll see.
Yeah, and I think what we'd like to do is when we could, in our letter, we could make suggestions for, as the board negotiates with the applicant about trade-offs, maybe lot number 8 doesn't get developed. When you look at it and you see how much wetlands and the riparian buffer is in that property. That property in the first plan was not developed at all, and now there's a home in there.
We also want to see if the applicant is open, instead of having the woodland management, maybe have they ever thought of doing conservation with that, looking into natural lands, conservation group that could take ownership of that, hold that land, protect that land, especially because of its proximity to the water. It would provide them with a tax benefit. It would not be developed. It would be sitting there. I mean, it's something to
And then
consider.
we would know that it's being properly
Right, cared for.
cared for.
Instead of them having, because there's a portion that they're 1.74 acres they're not touching over here, they're clarifying as open space. And so, we're just something to consider. It's a way that you can still, look, at the end of the day, this is private property. We want to respect private rights. We want to work with them, but there have to be the balance. And at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we do everything from an EAC perspective to bring attention to the issues that are concerned. So we know that we're not supervisors, we do not make this decision, but it's our job and duty to make sure that we do due diligence, to look at all these plans, bring it to your attention, bring it to the supervisors, and hope they make a good informed decision. All right, so I see that some individuals have come in now before, and we could not open up to public comment because this information, they weren't here. Should we just take a note? We're going to take a motion that we're going to draft our comment letter with all the notations that we've discussed. We'll send that out to everyone, and then by 12 o'clock tomorrow, submit it, because this will be going, is this going still to planning next Thursday at 7 o'clock? It's scheduled.
I'm assuming it's still going. I don't have any reason to believe it's not, other than the fact that I know the engineer's letter is pretty long.
Oh, good.
Because it's not even finished yet.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I don't know how they're going to respond to that, and
Right.
whether they're going to want to wait until they've addressed anything. So
Okay.
my answer is today, yes, it's on the agenda that I reviewed. So I think that's going to happen, but I don't know that for sure.
Okay, so it is. So a motion was made by Shiloh Sullivan Feeney, seconded by Joe Pinto, that the EAC will draft a comment letter regarding our concerns, 2 comment letters. And our position again is for the strongly not to approve the conditional use with these particular reasons why, and ask those factors to be brought into consideration. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion stand. We do have 2 residents who are directly impacted by this property. We've already made our vote. Is there something briefly you can add? Because we only have a couple of minutes. If you want to, if you have anything that you'd like,
Please,
just, if you could get up in the record.
We need to go to the mic.
Yeah, we need just say that you,
Do you want to take your card over to?
maybe you agree or disagree with what we're saying.
Take your card over to Mary. She's sitting right here. Oh, you have.
I do want to note that you were talking, Leonard,
I'm sorry, you have to give your name and
oh,
address.
sorry.
And how directly you are impacted by this property.
Francie Strathman, 3840 Gradyville Road. So we butt up to additional land that Mr. Debuton owns between us and this piece. I just will quickly note, I'll try to be quick. Actually, Leonard Altieri had called me the other day to go over the plan with me.
Oh, good.
And said that they had already told him that they would not, the township would not accept a fee in lieu of landscaping, so.
Okay.
Just saying, he did say that. Also the concern, his concern of that, they were asked to plant 250 trees and the plan only says 80. I have great concerns about the clear cutting because that's what he does in the past and the concerns with these heritage trees being taken down. And that that there was just a sampling taken rather than the whole thing. I think that's typical of what he's done before. Obviously, the stormwater is a concern about the drinking water. And if you just came through this storm today and drove
Yes.
on Gradyville Road, it's a mess. And it's flooded out in front of us, which was a result of Toll Brothers, but it's a mess already. And your recommendation of using a 5-year look at the patterns rather than a 2-year. Also the wildlife survey, that's a huge problem for us because everything from, it's all getting pushed to us
Yeah.
because we're the next piece of open land. And the impact that the deer have had on landscaping is unbelievable. We have more deer than I've ever seen in many, many decades. And also the impact that has on the roads and the traffic and also traffic. And I'll stop there because I could go on.
Yeah, thank you, Francie. One thought I had that I wanted to share with my colleagues to see if we want to include that in as an idea. Because you said the township wasn't going to accept a fee in lieu of, and maybe there are creative ways of the applicant taking actions to help minimize the impact of what they're doing on the surrounding residents and the community. Thinking about the deer and how my garden has been decimated this year. Things have been eaten that have never been eaten before. Every resident I speak to in Newtown Square has had landscape destruction. And it's more than that. Research shows that when you have deer overpopulation the way we do, it has a permanently or a severe destructive impact on the health of our habitat and our forests. Though there is no new generation of young trees coming up. Our trees are aging and there's no more trees because the deer eat them. This is jeopardizing our forests because of the trees. So it's not just like, oh, the deer ate my petunias. So I was thinking, and this is the fact that applicants and developers can develop things and push the deer population on other people is an economic and environmental concept called externalities, that the consequences of their actions impact other people, like a power plant emits coal pollution in a low-income neighborhood. There are higher incidences of lung disease and cancer. That is and then those people have to pay higher healthcare costs. They have higher rates of cancer. That insurance companies have to pay health insurance. So those are externalities. Those are costs that are borne by people who had nothing to do with the action taken by the other business. So if you think about that in relation to the deer overpopulation, which will get worse, perhaps the applicant should be asked to conduct a deer cull. If they're going to ruin the deer's habitat and make the deer starve and be overpopulated and drive them to the neighbors, maybe that's something the township could ask for.
All right. We have a lot to go on to our agenda, so I have to watch our time here. So we made the motion, we will draft that letter and get it back. And again, Steve, we did ask the applicant. Oh, yes, I'm sorry, yes. We did ask the applicants, Steve, if he would invite the EAC for a tour of the property especially because of the unique nature of the land and the waterfront. Okay, your name and.
My name's
address.
Christopher Roner, 3731 Gradyville Road, and I 100% support the committee's recommendations as you discussed them. And my biggest concern is the impact of the traffic on that road and to the adjacent driveways that are going to be affected by all this traffic coming through. And that's my biggest concern. So,
Great, thank you for that.
Thank
We'll
you.
make sure that we have, because, yeah, we didn't see any type of traffic study, but that was in the original plan, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, all right.
It was.
So Steve was gonna say something.
Steve?
Go ahead.
All right. Yeah.
Depend on
They would have to have it done by a third-party engineer, but I mean, the developer's the one that's required to have it done. I mean, they're paying for it, but they would have to be an engineer who's gonna seal that they've done the study, so it's like any time that we've asked a third party to do something.
All right, great. All right, next item up is reports. Great news, step update, Newtown Township values everything that the Environmental Advisory Council does. And we're delighted to announce that EAC representatives have been selected to be on both the comprehensive plan, which is our 10-year long-term vision, and our strategic plan. Dave Luce, not only is he a military combat hero, he's an EAC member, he's an engineer. He went to, is it Cambridge or Oxford? One of those bloody schools, but. Dave is a-
one? Which one?
Which one?
Cambridge.
Cambridge. But Dave is going to be a strategic committee. And what's wonderful is we're going to work with with Dave to give him some strategies that we also are areas of concern. And we're looking forward to Dave being on that, which I think, again, Steve, we wanted to make sure that Board of Supervisors if you can express our gratitude, because that's very important that they're valuing the environmental.
So
And
Dave, when does you start meeting with that?
Next week,
next one,
or this coming.
And then who else is on it?
I am on the
I'll ask
comprehensive.
Dave.
Oh, yes.
I've seen about 15 names on the email
That's a large group.
Planning.
distro, but I don't know, but I'll report back to you once we have our
Right.
first meeting.
And then Sheila, you're gonna be.
I'll be on comprehensive, but there's individuals from planning, there's individuals from the business sector, there's individuals, representative residents, so it's a great collection of individuals to
Good.
make sure that they see what the vision of the township is, they'll look at the 2016 document and going forward, and this is a really good plan. And Steve, great to the township, is decided to put these two together so that it's a continuous document.
Yeah, so the whole purpose of this document for going forward, we did a comp plan 10 years ago, gets adopted. It kind of stays in the forefront for a period of time and then it kind of doesn't necessarily drive everything that we do. The whole idea is to tie the two together. And the strategic plan will be really how we're going to carry out the comp plan. That's part of the real purpose of that. We've brought in a third-party consultant to help guide us through that process to make sure that we're able to do that. My desire was that the strategic plan would coincide with the comp plan as we move forward. So the comp plan is a 10-year plan. The strategic plan, the first 4 years will be designed right as we start. There'll be, when we enter year 4, we'll do a 3-year follow-up to that. And when we enter year 3 of that 3-year follow-up, we'll do the final 3-year follow-up to get through. So as things change, as you're moving forward, things that aren't getting done is brought back to our attention. The idea would be that it would drive our budget process. It would drive all that we're kind of doing as a township. So we're very excited about that. Yes, it does start next Tuesday.
There are 16, sorry, not 15, 16 people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
We're different committees, which is great.
so I would just say that we do start next Tuesday. And it is, it's about a year, a little over a year and a half process to get it done.
All right, item 8.2, Rain Gardens update of the and review.
The plugs have been planted, the gardens are looking fantastic. I showed the America in Bloom judges, toured them around today. So they're looking great.
Let the record know that Dave is leaving us in person, but he will be on the call. Thank you, Dave, for your time. Sorry, Cindy.
That's it.
Awesome.
Oh, and I want to commend
So you're going to pay attention.
Cindy for getting the signs to put on
Oh.
the plan.
Oh,
so
yeah.
We know what we're looking at so that
Um,
residents or whoever comes along.
We have added plant IDs
names,
of the
right.
common name and the Latin name of the major species in each of the gardens.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, Bird Town review. Now, one thing, I don't know if the Newtown residents know, but we actually have the resident of the year. Janet Cabanas has been selected by Newtown Square Friends and Family Magazine as a resident of the year. Her work that she does with Bird Town and on the EAC is incredible. I hope you saw her story.
God.
And her guy, look at this, there, she's gonna,
She's a cover girl.
she's a cover girl. What's important though is the work, she's famous and we're really proud of it, but the work she does, the engagement with the community is really important. Janice, give us an update on Bird Town.
Well, I just wanted to comment on my reason for agreeing to do the article was I really wanted to get the message out about Birdtown and how we are supporting our environment here and perhaps interacting with people who were not aware that we are Birdtown.
Awesome.
So I appreciate that. I did not know it was for the issue that is neighbor of the year. So
Yes.
They did not tell me that in advance.
All right, so on May 17th, Janet, we did the native plant swap and pollinator garden event. You.
Yeah, that was
coordinated-
with the
Historical.
Historical Society
Right.
and Kathy Cavalier had great turnout for develop or putting together these container events. People signed up to get one. You got one, didn't you?
Yes,
Sheila?
yep.
Right, yes.
Yep.
How was it doing?
It's wonderful. All right, and what's important is the work you do and we appreciate it. Thank you so much. Item 8.4, community outreach table review. EAC has had a dynamite season from the spring till actually even up to
Just
Tuesday.
if I can, I don't mean to interrupt you, but just for the record, Dave is on again.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure that we have that on.
We're gonna talk about you. Okay, let the record show that Dave Galush is back on. All right, so our first food and makers market, Janet and I were at that, did incredible community involvement, engagement, talking with residents, talking about loan conversion. The number of residents, Steve, that we've really had a chance to engage and talk with. What we hear directly from them is the impetus of how important it is to protect the environment across the board. They're concerned about development. They're concerned about a lot of things. So these opportunities are important for us to reach out, to understand what the residents are thinking, hearing, and feeling, and we have done a really good job at that. Circle at Sundown, 5 EAC members were at that event, and we walked around. We partnered with the Department of Health to give out the West Nile virus. Did that. We had a superstar, Ella Pinta, who she went out and helped Joe's daughter. She's fabulous. I actually want her as a junior EAC member. But anyway, we actually distributed 100 mosquito dunks. We gave information to residents. We had pamphlets, everything from on how to care for your garden, how to care for your property with stream bank, erosion and controls. So many wonderful things. So that was great. Item 8.5, Delaware County Sustainable Conference Review. We're not going to have a lot of time on this, and we might actually break into individual groups. The session was changed this year, so it was no longer just, the one-day event. They gave you more opportunities, but I think it felt a little bit for me that we were missing some of that opportunity to
Yes.
talk with other individuals.
It
brainstorm.
was mostly virtual.
Yes,
With webinars scattered throughout the week, and there was a walk on Friday afternoon and something on Saturday that I couldn't attend. So the content of the webinars that I participated in were very good. They reviewed the activities of the Delaware County Sustainability Commission. They listened to one about watershed-friendly property certification program.
I really like the one on passing an ordinance against leaf blowers,
yes,
noisy leaf blowers.
It has been
was a
done.
Process.
yes. They highlighted a town who has actually done that because really the move away because of the decimal levels, the impact of quality of life with hearing. But there was actually a town that showed what they have done and removing all high-pitched gasoline powered leaf blowers, lawnmower, everything. And it
Did
was-
either of you guys listen to either of the webinars?
yes, I
I
actually,
did the watershed friendly.
yes, and
What would you think, Joe, of us making that similar presentation this fall?
well, my property is sort of, I actually have that.
Okay.
I have that notification and it's something that's really important because there's ways you can control water and make sure at the end of the day, the responsibility of each homeowner to manage their water and not let it go out to because that hydrology process is very important. So, yeah, we can talk about that. Maybe we can even break into individual two groups, to see how we can incorporate a lot of that knowledge. Janet,
And
anything else?
by the way, all of those are available. Those Zooms are available, and that was just sent out, I think, yesterday or the day before.
The
Right,
links.
Right, the links to those.
All right, awesome. We will dig into that a little bit deeper. Cindy, we can talk about that because I really, these sessions are important for them, but we want to make sure that we take that knowledge back and we incorporate it into our community, and it's important. I will give them some feedback that I thought that we do need that chance to
Network.
talk,
in
network,
person.
get into the tables, talk, because, that opportunity to talk to DCNR or DCCD or see what grants coming down the way is really important. And that's how Newtown Township is very well positioned, and we are very well respected with so many organizations that we work with. And it's a great opportunity for us to work together, share resources, time, energy, and they come back and support us, and we appreciate that. All right, item number 9, new business. We're going to discussion possible action for the Rain Pollinator Gardens Meetup Trails with Greenways. This will be on Saturday, June 28th from 9 to 10:30. Cindy, give us a little rundown on that.
This is going to be a joint program between the EAC, the Greenways and Open Space Commission, which is basically trails and pedestrian friendly, and Birdtown. And the library is going to host it. We're going to walk for an hour. We're going to start here. We're going to go through both rain gardens up to Boron and see their bluebird boxes, see the trail they put in, the meadow they're putting in, how they've taken down Calorie pear trees. Then we're going to come back down the back trail. We can show where there are native plants there. We're going to be highlighting native plants and how they support pollinators every step of the way. We're going to go down through Gable Park to highlight the mini arboretum there, point out to people that those are all native trees and shrubs, which hopefully they might want to plant in their own property. And then we'll end up here at the library with a small reception on the balcony. And we're going to have
Shade-grown coffee from various sources. And, one of them is even here in Newtown Square. So it's a wonderful opportunity to feature.
and lots of information about pollinators and native plants and stuff.
An FYI, on my way in, there looked like adage over there.
Really?
Oh, really?
On the libraries.
On
No.
the-
Balcony.
on
Gable
Bell-
Park.
Gable
Gable
Park.
Park.
Oh,
Oh,
trees
Trees.
down.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
Wow.
is an effort. There was 100, we put 168 trees and bushes in there a
And
couple
that's
years ago.
part of the reason we put them in there is that we lost trees because of a derecho.
Yeah.
Well,
Literally every road is blocked coming in this way.
Yeah,
So-
Bishop Hollow had
Well,
branches down on it.
The
Yeah,
great
I
thing
mean,
about
yeah.
the EAC is we're resilient, we'll address the issue, and we will move forward. So
I
I'll
hope we
get
get
that.
home.
Item number 9 point, excuse me, Cindy, do we have any expected expense for that? We thought a possibility of $50. Okay, no expense, awesome. A motion was made by Cindy Mahalo, seconded by Joe Pinto, that the EAC will support make the Rain Pollinators Gardeners Meetup Walk with Trails and Greenways. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion stands, awesome. Item 9.2, discussion of possible action on the 2025 Fall Street Tree Program with Shade Tree Commission. Steve, I know Carol unfortunately lost her mom this week, so I didn't want to bother with the updates. Anything that you have can give us in terms of,
It's on their agenda this month,
Okay,
so I think.
all right, I will, as soon as I'm giving Carol some time to deal with the loss of her beloved mom, that was, she was one of our featured 105-year-old
Yes,
residents, I
right.
remember on the cover a couple months ago. Marguerite went home to God, so we are giving Carol some time, and I will follow up with that. All right, discussion possible action on July e-newsletter contact. We are going to be sharing the Good Gardening Saturday, which will be the Free Birds event, and how to incorporate, that'll be a fall event, Cindy, we're gonna talk about. For July, we really want to kind of incorporate anything about it. Cindy, you have anything in particular that you want for the July e-newsletter?
I always have lots of ideas and I can't think of any of them right now.
Okay, Janet,
I will see what's coming out on our Birdtown.
okay,
Right, it's always a great opportunity to be able to link the Birdtown with our own Birdtown here.
and actually, we partnered with Parks and Rec this week in the library and we did the kids planting and the things, and they were so excited when we deputized them all as citizen scientists. And so they all think they could go out and save the earth, so it was so adorable. But those type of programs that you do with Town, oh, okay. they're
Yes,
not
yes,
yours.
well, our camp kids, on July the 17th, we're going to make binoculars and gonna be looking.
Do you have to go to the microphone? I'm sorry. I know, Francine, I'm very sorry, but we gotta follow protocol.
That's right. Francie Stratton, 3840 Gradyville Road. I didn't know whether you had any information about the invasive sparrows and the effect on the bluebirds.
Well, I will tell you what what we received, the information from the Bluebird Society of Pennsylvania. Sparrows are an invasive species. So we can
Yes.
remove them from the nest. It's okay to remove them from the nest. Wrens, house sparrows. Wrens are native, so we want to leave the wrens alone, even though we'd rather they not be in those bluebird houses. Right?
Yes.
Yes,
Wrens will do that
they
too.
do that.
Yes,
Yeah,
unfortunately,
do
house
that.
It's,
sparrows.
I think we don't realize how hard it is for nature out there until we begin to focus on the individuals.
All right, so July content, Janet, you wanna kind of think of some things to do?
I'll find
Okay.
some.
Okay, because,
Like one possibility would be to offer some of the links to the sustainable conference
Yes.
webinars.
Good. Right.
Because that's really good information that could easily be shared with members of the public. By the way, I'll say, I thought that Dave's article about I
the
don't know,
environment, yeah.
about the environment being everyone's responsibility and it's not a partisan issue. I don't know if you read it. It
I
was
did.
That was great.
exceptional.
That was in our e-newsletter, and it was very well. We were looking for something that was showing you the importance that this is not a political issue. This is for all of us. We're all impacted. So Dave did a great job for that, and we appreciate that. So Janet, maybe we can look at something, how we can incorporate, since July will be the time the kids were home. Maybe we can think of kids in the environment. You can think of something and I will think of something. We can dress that down. Joe, you want to take a pass, anything this month?
Any ideas?
Yeah, I actually want to write the article. She's
Oh, maybe I'll
phenomenal.
get something from her.
I get a kid's perspective from her on what kids can do, because we've got a lot going on.
Idea.
There's a really neat thing going on at Newbie Park. Parks and Rec is doing that. So our next meeting is going to be held on Thursday, July 17th at 5:30. Agenda items are going to be due to me by Sunday, July 6th at 8 a.m. I do need e-newsletter contents by Sunday, July 6th at 8 a.m. And the July newsletter is expected to be published on Friday, July 11th. So any other comments from the public? Any other comments from any of the board members? I think we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Safe travels home tonight.